Here we are in our same test scene, and I just created this simple material, which is, as you can see, this is just a color here in the color channel for the base and a standard clear coat that we used in previous scenes. So 95% transparency, 100% reflection, and classic displacements. So nothing fancy, exactly what we use. Let's just render that and see where we are at. And currently I have area shadows here with low definition, so we have some fast render time. And also under main light I have this show in reflection guy. Okay, we talked about that. That is to really create real specular. And you can see here that I can change the shape of that area. Let's, for example, let me change to something like maybe sphere, and let's see if something changes. So the area shape will change, but also the light intensity will change. So bear that in mind when you are setting your scenes up. Let me undo that. So let's say I want this kind of reflection here. And in this lesson I really want to talk first about dirt coats. And you can see that this surface is really nice and it has no bumps, it has no wearing on it, and rarely in real life you can find surfaces that are so perfect. Okay? You will always find some, probably always you'll find some scratches and wearing and dust and dirt and stuff like this. So let's really tackle that problem. How we can create what is basically called dirt coats or wearing coats or dust coats or something like that, but generally some sort of a wearing that you can actually avoid that classic CG look. And once again the secret is in this clear coat, and in this case we will call it DC, like dirt coat, and also here DC, just to keep things nice and tidy. To really emulate that, we have to have the part of this coating to be missing or they are scratched out or weared out. So for that purpose we will use this really nice alpha channel. And if you enable it, as you can remember here in the alpha channel, you can basically say with black or white colors what will be visible, what will be completely transparent, and what will be completely opaque. So you can control completely that surface with black and white values, and of course all the values in between. So let's try with noise shader and see what do we get here. We can see something change, but not really that we can see a change on the surface. So let's play with that noise. Firstly, we have to choose a proper type, but don't mistake that proper for exactly the one you have to use. You have to experiment with which noise gives you the result that you want. For example, I found that this Ober noise or this Voronoi noises are really good for this, and let me try with that. And you can see we have something happening. Okay? You can fake sort of a dust effects and similar with this Ober noise. Of course, you would have to play with these values just to cut off some values, so you just have this dust left. Okay? But not really what I want to talk about. I want to add some wearing to this surface. And first I have to scale this down to, let's say, 10% and see where we are at. And now you can actually see we have some wearing here, but let's check some settings here. Firstly, I want to turn off this soft. And this soft will simply get rid of soft transitions between black and white values. Okay, let's try that. So we have really like these occasional spots and wearing and scratches. And this already looks really nice. If you want to have really pronounced effect, then here under displacement channel, you will just have to activate this sub-polygon displacement and you will get really detailed results. Let me show you what I talk about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So that surface becomes really scratched and weird, and it preserves every other quality we added to it. It's still shiny and reflective, and it still has real speculars, and all the lighting, everything else will behave just as you expect on this surface. So that's the dirt coat technique. You can add many of these dirt coats, but be sure to, for every dirt coat, be sure to increase this height value of displacement. Okay, so you can stack them. But warning, that can be really render costly. It can really consume much time when rendering. Okay, let me just leave that as it is. Maybe I will just get rid of that subpolygon displacements and alpha channel just to have a nice clean surface so I can show you actually something else. And what I want to show is the softbox technique. It sounds complicated, but in fact it's really simple. Let me create a simple plane. And I will deactivate this render view and pull this up and simply scale it until it's somewhat more decent in the size. You can actually change this width and height segments to 1 just to keep everything optimized. And as you know, we can use any object as a source of light. So just for the sake of this tutorial, I will disable this show in reflection guy. Okay, so we'll see why we will lose this specular here, but I'll create a new material, add only a luminance channel to it, and apply it to this plane. And let's see what happens. And now we actually have this nice reflection here, this real specular happening here. And with the softbox technique, it means you will soften out these edges, this specular, okay? That's much more realistic than these hard transitions between light and dark areas. So to do that, you would simply control the appearance of your material here under luminance channel. And by controlling, you can really control this with a gradient, because we want to have a gradual transition between black and white values here that will translate to this green and sort of a light gray values. And let me put this to a flat 2D, because then it will be exactly the same projection as this plane. So it will be flat, and I can really tune that gradient down. First, I want to change this type to the box, and you can see the effect here. The effect is that the most of the light will be coming from this white area, and it will be cut off this where the black is. So I want to invert that. So let me right click and invert that. And actually I'm much closer to result. I will just pull this somewhat to the right, just to get really nice transition. Something like this could work. Okay, this is a soft transition. This is basically a softbox. You can utilize this technique on your existing lights, but you would have to create a plane and put all this information you created here in the alpha channel and put it just in front of your light. Okay, so as the light passes through this plane, it will soften out here on the edges. But beware, when you put this in front of your existing lights, you will lose intensity. Okay, so scene will become darker. So you would probably have to increase the intensity of the light and calibrate by eye, again, once you have decent results. Let's mention one more trick before we delve into our render settings. You can see, you just clear that out and leave it all to white. You will certainly find yourself in a situation where you want to have only these reflections, nothing else. And to do that, you will have to composite. So let's do just that. Add a compositing tag. Here under Scene 4D, tags, compositing, and you want to turn almost everything off. So turn this cast shadow off, receive shadow off, then scene by transparency, scene by refraction, scene by ambient occlusion, and the main guy here is this scene by camera, so you don't want to see this object by camera, so turn it off. But you will still get reflection from it. Let me just demonstrate that. Let me just pull it here. So there will be no object, but the reflection will stay. I think this pretty much wraps it up, and let's talk about render settings prior to actually rendering and creating some scenes, because I think that is really important for you to understand render settings.